The main steps of the purchasing process are to create a purchase order, receive goods, and then pay for those goods. We have already created a purchase order and we've received the goods, so our next step is to pay our vendor. This video shows how to pay a vendor in Dynamics GP. We are using the Fabricam company in this illustration, and after logging in, the default date is April 12, 2017. I'm going to assume that it is May 1st, 2017, so I'm going to change the system date. May 1st is also the date that I'm going to write a check to pay the vendor for the goods that I received. This fits within the credit terms of the purchase, which are net 30, meaning that we need to make payment within 30 days from the date of the receipt of goods, which was April 19th. I'm going to go ahead and select Purchasing in the navigation pane, and then within the transaction group, I want manual checks. Manual payments. The payment number defaults in, and this is unique, so each of ours will be different. I will tab down. I've got my system date of May 1st. If May 1st is not the right date, or if you did not change the system date, you can use the calendar then to change to the appropriate date. I will tab a couple times and go down to the vendor ID field where I will enter my vendor ID. In my case, MLW242. The closed loop verification brings in the name on the check, which in this case is Watson Marcia. The payment method defaults to check, which is what we want to accept, but notice you can also have cash or electronic fund transfers. Tab down, the check ID defaults to Uptown Trust. I'm going to accept the default. Companies generally have multiple bank accounts, so this field allows you to enter the appropriate checking account from which the check is drafted, and you can use the lookup glass in this case to see the additional checkbook IDs in Fabricam. The document number is automatically generated, and we will accept that. The document number is the next sequential check number if the payment is by check. If it's by cash, credit card, or electronic fund transfer, the document number is the same as the payment number. I'm going to tab down to enter the amount. In my case, I want to enter the $2,000. That's what I want to pay. And notice what happens when I click tab. We can see that the $2,000 over on the right-hand side is unapplied. This means that we haven't told the system yet which invoice or invoices that the $2,000 is in payment of. So I'm going to click the Apply button. And in this case, it's pretty easy because this vendor only has one outstanding invoice to be paid, and it is for the $2,000. So if there were several, I would have to pick and choose which invoices are being paid by the check. But in this case, it's just one. So I'm going to go ahead and click the box, and you'll notice that the unapplied amount went from $2,000 down to 0. So I'm going to say OK. And then let's click on the distribution button just to look at the general ledger accounts, and I'm going to go ahead and show details so that we see not only the account number but the account name. We have a credit to cash and a debit to accounts payable, and that's appropriate, so let's click OK. So now let's post the window, and then we will go ahead and close because we have no other manual payments to make. And again, we'll receive several windows for a variety of reports. You can save these to your computer or you can cancel. I am simply going to cancel. Notice that this report is the checkbook posting journal. That's updating the checkbook. The effect of posting the window updates the checkbook register and the subsidiary ledger. So let's take a look at within the system as to what changes our transaction caused by posting the window. So I want to look at the check register first. So I'm going to go to Financial over in the navigation pane. And then I'm going to go to the Inquiry group and just scroll down a little bit until I get to the checkbook register. The checkbook ID is the Uptown. I will select that. And we can see there's been quite a few entries, so I want to look at the entries by date. And my payment was on May 1st, so that's what I'm going to filter for, and I will redisplay. So I can see a couple payments were made on May 1st. I know the one that I made was for $2,000, so I will highlight that. And if I wanted to drill down, I could click on the hyperlink number, and then I would see the detail of that payment. I will close that out, and I close that out. And let's look now at the vendor subsidiary records. So I'll go back to purchasing, and I'm going to go to inquiry again, but this time I'm going to look at the payable summary. And I want to look not at all of the vendors, I want to look at just my vendor. And I will have it calculate. And we will see that the outstanding amount is 0. So we do not owe this vendor any balance. Let's look through inquiry at transaction by vendor. I'm going to expand, and we can see that we have the invoice, which we can look at the details through the hyperlink document number. This is the detail of our shipment invoice. And we also have the payment, which again we can drill down through the document number and see the details of the payment. Now we just viewed how the vendor subsidiary was updated via the posting of the purchase and payment windows. You've seen in a previous video how inventory quantity was updated when the vendor's invoice was posted. But the general ledger has not yet been updated. And to update the general ledger, you would select Series Post in the transaction group, and I'll scroll down to Series Post. To update the general ledger for the entries, and these entries right here are the ones that I made, and there's a couple others, you would check the box. It would become marked, and then you would post, and that would update the general ledger. Now, company policy would generally define who would perform the series posting. Some companies might have the user that's entering the data go ahead and update the general ledger, or it could be a different individual. I am not going to perform series posting. Follow your case instruction as to whether or not you should perform series posting.